Good morning slash afternoon slash evening, everyone. Let me ask you a question. How many times have you held yourself back because someone said, "You're not good enough"? How many times have you let the world define your worth? It's time to stop. Right now, people will always have opinions. They will judge you for the way you look, the way you talk, the choices you make, and the dreams you chase. But here's the truth. Their judgment is not your reality. If I had listened to the people who doubted me, I wouldn't be standing here today. If I had let their words dictate my life, I would have never dared to dream beyond what was expected of me, but I chose differently. And so can you. You see, the world loves labels, too ambitious, too bold, too loud. But I say, why should you fit into their box when you were born to stand out? Why should you dim your light just because it makes someone uncomfortable? The only person who gets to define you is you. Your dreams are valid. Your voice matters. Your journey is yours to write. And no one, absolutely no one, has the right to tell you who you should be. So the next time someone tries to judge you, smile and then show them what you're made of, because the only approval you need is your own. Thank you. People will always have opinions, and no matter who you are or what you do, there will always be someone who feels the need to judge you. It could be about the way you look, the way you speak, the choices you make, or the dreams you dare to chase. People will talk. They will dissect your actions, criticize your ambitions, and sometimes even question your worth. But the important thing to remember is that their judgment does not define you. From the moment we step into the world, we are surrounded by expectations. Society, family, peers, and even strangers believe they have the right to form an opinion about who we should be. They create invisible boundaries of what is acceptable and what is not. If you fit their mold, you are celebrated. If you don't, you are judged. But imagine living your entire life based on someone else's idea of who you should be. Imagine suppressing your own dreams just to avoid the whispers of people who don't walk in your shoes. That's not living. That's just existing in a reality built by others. Every successful person in the world has faced judgment. People who break boundaries, who challenge norms, who dare to be different are always met with resistance. Some of the most iconic figures in history were once ridiculed for their ideas, their passion, and their courage. But what if they had stopped? What if they had let someone else's words define their potential? The world would be a very different place. The truth is, judgment is inevitable, but allowing it to dictate your life is a choice, and that choice belongs to you. People form opinions based on their own experiences, biases, and limitations. When someone tells you that you can't achieve something, it's often a reflection of their own fears, not your abilities. When they judge you for being different, it's because they are uncomfortable with anything that doesn't fit into their narrow worldview. Their judgment is not about you, it's about them. Realizing this gives you the power to rise above it. It's human nature to want validation. We all seek approval in some way, whether it's from family, friends, or society. But the problem arises when we start valuing other people's opinions more than our own. When we give their words more power than our own self-belief, we hand over control of our lives. Think about it. Why should someone who hasn't lived your journey get to decide what you are capable of? Why should their perception shape your reality? The only way to truly live freely is to detach yourself from the fear of judgment. This doesn't mean you ignore constructive feedback or refuse to grow. It means you learn to distinguish between criticism that helps you evolve and judgment that only aims to bring you down. There is a difference between someone offering guidance and someone projecting their limitations onto you. You will never be able to please everyone. No matter how hard you try, someone will always find something to criticize. You could be the kindest person, the hardest worker, the most talented individual, and still there will be voices that say it's not enough. So why waste your time trying to satisfy people who will never be satisfied? Instead, focus on being true to yourself. If you believe in your abilities, if you stay committed to your goals, if you refuse to let negativity dictate your actions, no judgment can break you. The moment you stop letting other people's opinions define you is the moment you step into your true power. Doubt is one of the most powerful forces that can hold a person back, and more often than not, it comes from those around us. Doubters are everywhere. They may come disguised as well-meaning friends, concerned family members, or even people who claim to have more experience than you. They will tell you that your dreams are too big, that your goals are unrealistic, and that the path you want to take is too difficult. At first, their words may seem like advice, but if you listen to them too closely, they become chains that hold you back from realizing your full potential. People who doubt you often speak from their own fears and limitations. They project their own insecurities onto you because they cannot imagine achieving what you are striving for. When they say, "You can't do this," what they really mean is, "I don't believe I could do this." They may have tried something once and failed, or they may have never dared to step outside their comfort zone. But just because they couldn't do it doesn't mean you can. Their fears do not define your abilities. Their failures do not predict your future. The danger of listening to doubters is that their voices begin to shape your inner thoughts. The more you hear someone say that you are not capable, the more you start to wonder if they are right. Doubt is like a seed. Once planted, it can grow roots deep into your mind. It makes you question your own worth, your own strength, and your own dreams. And once you start doubting yourself, you hesitate, you hold back, you take fewer risks, you stop pushing yourself because you start believing that failure is inevitable. But the truth is, failure is only inevitable if you never try. Think about every successful person you know. Do you think they never faced doubters? Do you think no one ever told them they weren't good enough? Every great athlete, every groundbreaking scientist, every visionary entrepreneur, and every artist who changed the world has been told at some point that they wouldn't make it. But they did not listen. They refused to let someone else's disbelief stop them from reaching their full potential. If they had believed the doubters, their stories would have ended before they even began. The world is filled with examples of people who proved their doubters wrong. There were students told they weren't smart enough, athletes told they weren't strong enough, and dreamers told they weren't practical enough. But what separates those who succeed from those who don't is the ability to block out the noise, the ability to trust their own vision even when no one else does. If you allow yourself to be swayed by negativity, you will never push yourself far enough to see what you are truly capable of. Realizing your full potential requires confidence, resilience, and a willingness to take risks. It requires tuning out the voices that say you can't and replacing them with the voice in your heart that says you can. The truth is, the only way to truly know what you are capable of is to push yourself beyond the limits others have set for you. If you never take that step, if you always play it safe because someone told you not to try, you will never discover how far you could have gone. The most successful people in the world are not the ones who had the easiest paths. They are the ones who faced opposition, overcame self-doubt, and proved themselves against all odds. They are the ones who took criticism and turned it into fuel. The ones who heard "you can't" and answered with "watch me." Because at the end of the day, the only limits that truly exist are the ones you accept. And if you refuse to accept them, there is nothing stopping you from achieving everything you are meant to be. Society has a way of placing labels on people as if everyone must fit into neatly defined categories. From the moment we are born, we are expected to conform to a set of standards, whether it's about how we should behave, what we should achieve, or even how we should dream. These labels can be based on gender, background, profession, or even personal choices. They come from expectations that have been carried forward for generations, and they dictate who people think we should be. But the truth is, no one has the right to define you except for yourself. Just because society tries to put a label on you does not mean you have to wear it. Labels can be limiting. They box people in, making them feel as though they are only allowed to be a certain way. If you are ambitious, you might be labeled as too aggressive. If you choose to focus on your family, some might call you not ambitious enough. If you pursue an unconventional career, people will say it's not practical. No matter what choices you make, someone will always have an opinion about whether you are doing things the right way. But whose definition of right are we following? These labels do not take into account individual dreams, talents, or circumstances. They are built on generalizations, and generalizations are never accurate enough to define a unique person. Many people spend their entire lives trying to fit into the roles that society has created for them, often at the cost of their own happiness. They make choices not because they truly want to, but because they feel pressured to meet expectations. They suppress their desires and passions just to avoid judgment. But what good is living if you are not truly yourself? Imagine waking up every day and pretending to be someone else just to please people who will never fully understand you. It is exhausting and, more importantly, unnecessary. People who break free from labels are the ones who change the world. Every great innovator, leader, and artist was once told that they didn't fit the mold. They were criticized for being different, but instead of shrinking themselves to fit society's expectations, they embraced their uniqueness. They refused to be confined by outdated ideas of what they should be, and because of that, they created new possibilities not just for themselves but for others. If they had listened to the labels placed on them, they would have never achieved greatness. There is no rule that says you must be only one thing in life. You are allowed to be dynamic, complex, and ever-evolving. You can be both strong and sensitive, both practical and creative, both ambitious and nurturing. You can be whoever you choose to be without needing to explain yourself to anyone. The moment you stop trying to fit into a label is the moment you start truly living. You begin to make choices based on what makes you happy rather than what makes others comfortable. Breaking free from labels requires confidence and self-awareness. It means understanding that you do not need validation from society to be valuable. It means recognizing that people will always have opinions, but their opinions do not define your worth. It means choosing to follow your own path, even when it goes against expectations. This is not always easy, but it is always worth it. Because at the end of the day, the only person who truly knows who you are and what you are capable of is you. The world does not need more people who conform. It needs more people who are brave enough to be themselves, despite the labels society tries to place on them. So do not let anyone tell you who you should be. Do not let a label dictate your future. Live life on your own terms, unapologetically and fearlessly, because you are not a label, you are a limitless possibility. Ignoring emotional pain doesn't heal it, it only deepens the wound. Yet many people, especially men, are conditioned to believe that suppressing their emotions is the best way to deal with them. From a young age, they are taught that strength means endurance, that resilience means silence, and that acknowledging pain is a sign of weakness. They are encouraged to push past their struggles, to distract themselves, and to carry on as if nothing is wrong. However, emotional pain does not simply disappear when ignored. Instead, it festers beneath the surface, affecting mental and physical health, relationships, and overall well-being in ways that are often unrecognized until it is too late. When emotional pain is ignored, it does not lose its intensity. Instead, it manifests in different ways, sometimes subtly, sometimes destructively. Unprocessed grief, anger, disappointment, or trauma can resurface as irritability, anxiety, depression, or even physical illness. The mind and body are deeply connected, and when emotional wounds go unaddressed, they often translate into chronic stress, fatigue, headaches, and other health problems. What starts as an attempt to stay strong by ignoring pain can lead to a slow deterioration of both mental and physical well-being. For many people, one of the most common ways to suppress emotional pain is through distraction. Some throw themselves into work, trying to keep their minds occupied to avoid confronting their feelings. Others turn to unhealthy coping mechanisms such as alcohol, substance abuse, or reckless behavior in an attempt to numb the emotions they refuse to face. While these distractions may provide temporary relief, they do not erase the pain. Instead, they prolong it, making it more difficult to process over time. The more emotional pain is ignored, the stronger its grip becomes, leading to self-destructive patterns that can be difficult to break. In relationships, unhealed emotional wounds often create barriers between individuals. People who suppress their emotions may struggle to connect deeply with their partners, family members, or friends. They may become emotionally distant, unwilling to share their thoughts and feelings out of fear of being perceived as weak. Over time, this emotional distance can lead to misunderstandings, resentment, and isolation. When pain is ignored rather than confronted, it does not just harm the individual, it affects everyone around them. Loved ones may sense that something is wrong, but feel helpless because the person refuses to open up. This can create a cycle where emotional pain is not only ignored, but also becomes a source of conflict and further distress. There is also a psychological cost to suppressing emotions. Studies have shown that unresolved emotional pain can contribute to increased stress, anxiety, and depression. The more a person suppresses their emotions, the more pressure builds inside them. It is like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. The harder one pushes it down, the more forcefully it will eventually resurface. At some point, the pain becomes too overwhelming to contain, and it may manifest in unexpected outbursts, breakdowns, or moments of intense emotional distress. The longer emotions are ignored, the more damage they can cause when they finally demand attention. Ignoring emotional pain also prevents personal growth. Pain, as difficult as it may be, serves an important purpose. It teaches valuable lessons, fosters resilience, and helps individuals understand themselves better. When people confront their emotions, they give themselves the opportunity to heal, to gain insight, and to grow stronger in a way that is not about suppression, but about transformation. True strength does not come from denying pain, but from facing it, understanding it, and allowing oneself to move forward. Those who suppress their emotions miss out on the chance to heal and to build a healthier, more fulfilling life. One of the biggest misconceptions about emotional pain is that talking about it makes it worse. In reality, acknowledging pain is the first step toward healing. When people express their emotions, whether through conversations, therapy, writing, or other outlets, they begin to process their feelings in a way that allows them to move forward. Suppressing emotions only traps them inside, making them more difficult to manage over time. Healing begins when people allow themselves to feel, to express, and to seek support without fear of judgment. In a world that often equates silence with strength, many struggle with the idea of admitting their pain. But ignoring emotional pain does not make it go away. It only allows it to take root in deeper, more damaging ways. Healing requires acknowledgement, understanding, and the willingness to address emotions rather than suppress them. It is only by facing emotional pain that one can truly move beyond it. We need to create safe spaces where people, especially men, feel comfortable expressing their emotions without fear of judgment. In a society that often equates vulnerability with weakness, too many individuals suffer in silence, believing that their struggles are something to be dealt with alone. The absence of spaces where they can openly talk about their feelings and experiences only reinforces this damaging belief, making it harder for them to seek help when they need it most. By fostering environments that encourage open, honest conversations, we can break the cycle of emotional suppression and create a culture where people no longer feel the need to hide their pain. Safe spaces are not about coddling or avoiding difficult conversations. They are about providing an environment where people can be honest about their emotions without the fear of being ridiculed, dismissed, or told to just deal with it. For many men, the fear of being perceived as weak prevents them from opening up, even to those closest to them. They may worry that admitting to struggles will change how others see them, that their friends, family, or colleagues will view them as less capable or less strong. Safe spaces challenge this fear by normalizing emotional expression and reinforcing the truth that asking for help is not a failure, it is a necessary step toward healing. Creating safe spaces begins with changing the way we respond to vulnerability. Too often, when someone expresses their emotions, they are met with dismissive or minimizing responses. Phrases like, "man up," "don't be so sensitive," or "you'll get over it," discourage people from sharing their feelings in the future. Even well-intentioned advice like "stay positive" or "just focus on the good" can feel invalidating when someone is struggling. Safe spaces require a shift in how we listen to and support one another. They require us to respond with empathy, understanding, and reassurance rather than judgment or quick fixes. One of the most important places where safe spaces need to be established is within friendships. Many male friendships lack emotional depth because vulnerability is not always welcomed or encouraged. Conversations often revolve around external topics, sports, work, entertainment, while deeper emotions remain unspoken. Changing this dynamic requires a conscious effort to create an environment where men feel comfortable sharing their struggles without fear of being ridiculed. This can start with something as simple as asking a friend how they are really doing and being willing to listen without judgment. When people see that their emotions are taken seriously, they are more likely to open up and seek support when they need it. Workplaces also need to become safe spaces for emotional expression. In many professional environments, there is an unspoken expectation that emotions should be kept out of the workplace. Men in particular often feel pressure to maintain a strong, composed image, fearing that showing vulnerability could harm their reputation or career prospects. However, suppressing emotions in the workplace can lead to burnout, stress, and decrease productivity. Employers and colleagues can help create a more supportive environment by encouraging mental health discussions, offering resources for emotional well-being, and fostering a culture where asking for help is seen as a strength rather than a weakness. Families play a crucial role in establishing safe spaces as well. Many men grow up in households where emotions are rarely discussed, leading them to believe that feelings should be kept private. Fathers who model emotional openness and vulnerability can have a profound impact on their children, teaching them that expressing emotions is not a sign of weakness, but a natural and healthy part of life. Creating a family culture where emotions are acknowledged and validated can help break generational cycles of emotional suppression. The media also has a responsibility in shaping perceptions of emotional expression. Many movies, TV shows, and advertisements still promote outdated ideas of masculinity, portraying strong men as those who remain stoic and unaffected by emotions. While there has been progress in breaking these stereotypes, there is still a need for more representation of men who openly express their feelings without shame. Seeing examples of emotionally expressive men in the media can help challenge the stigma around vulnerability and encourage more people to embrace their emotions. Online communities can serve as safe spaces as well, providing a platform for people to share their experiences and connect with others who understand what they're going through. Many men find it easier to open up in anonymous forums or support groups where they do not have to fear immediate judgment from those around them. Encouraging the growth of such communities and ensuring they remain supportive and non-judgmental can provide an invaluable resource for those who might not have access to safe spaces in their personal lives. Ultimately, creating safe spaces requires a collective effort from individuals, families, workplaces, and society as a whole. It means challenging outdated beliefs about strength and vulnerability, normalizing emotional conversations, and fostering an environment where people feel supported rather than shamed for expressing their struggles. When people have a place where they can be honest about their emotions, they are more likely to seek help, build stronger relationships, and improve their overall well-being. Safe spaces are not just a luxury, they are a necessity for a healthier, more compassionate society. True strength lies in speaking up, not in staying silent. Yet for generations, society has conditioned people, especially men, to believe the opposite. They are taught that silence is strength, that suffering alone is a mark of resilience, and that expressing emotions is a sign of weakness. This belief is deeply ingrained in cultural norms, media portrayals, and even the way families raise their children. Boys grow up hearing phrases like "man up," "real men don't cry," and "handle it yourself." As they transition into adulthood, these messages shape their perception of what it means to be strong. They internalize the idea that keeping their struggles hidden makes them tougher, while speaking about them exposes vulnerability. However, true strength is not about suppressing emotions or enduring pain in silence. It is about having the courage to acknowledge one's struggles, seek support, and break free from the isolation that silence creates. Silence does not make pain disappear, it only deepens it. When someone chooses to stay silent about their struggles, they carry the weight of their emotions alone. They may convince themselves that they are protecting others from their burdens, but in reality, they are only making the struggle more difficult. Suppressing emotions can lead to stress, anxiety, and depression, all of which take a toll on both mental and physical health. The body and mind are not designed to function under prolonged emotional suppression. Over time, the pressure of holding everything in can lead to emotional breakdowns, self-destructive behaviors, and even severe mental health crises. Speaking up, on the other hand, allows people to release some of that weight and begin the process of healing. Many people hesitate to speak up because they fear judgment. They worry that others will see them differently, that they will be perceived as weak or incapable. This fear is especially strong in environments where emotional expression is stigmatized, such as male friendships, workplaces, or certain cultural settings. The irony, however, is that speaking up requires far more courage than staying silent. It takes strength to confront one's emotions, to admit that something is wrong, and to reach out for help. It requires the ability to be honest, not just with others, but with oneself. The people who can stand up and say, "I'm struggling," or "I need support," are not weak. They are strong enough to reject the societal pressure that tells them to suffer alone. Speaking up also has the power to inspire others. Many people believe they are alone in their struggles, that no one else could possibly understand what they are going through. But when one person chooses to open up, it creates a ripple effect. It reassures others that they are not alone, that their feelings are valid, and that seeking help is not something to be ashamed of. In a world where silence has been the norm for too long, every voice that speaks out challenges that norm and helps create a culture where emotional expression is accepted rather than discouraged. Another important aspect of speaking up is that it paves the way for change. Many of the issues that affect mental health, such as workplace stress, family pressures, and societal expectations, persist because people do not talk about them openly. When people start sharing their experiences, it forces society to take these issues more seriously. It encourages conversations about mental health policies in the workplace, the need for emotional education in schools, and the importance of shifting cultural expectations around masculinity. Progress cannot happen in silence. Change begins when people have the courage to speak up and demand a better, more supportive world. Speaking up does not mean a person has to share their deepest emotions with everyone they meet. It simply means finding safe spaces where they feel comfortable expressing themselves. This could be with close friends, family members, support groups, or mental health professionals. It could even be through creative outlets such as writing, art, or music. The key is to break the cycle of isolation and acknowledge that emotions deserve to be processed, not buried. Everyone's journey toward opening up looks different, but taking even the smallest step toward expressing emotions is an act of strength. Ultimately, true strength is about facing emotions head-on rather than running from them. It is about recognizing that asking for help is not a sign of failure, but a mark of self-awareness and resilience. It is about choosing connection over isolation, honesty over suppression, and healing over silent suffering. A world where people feel safe speaking up is a world where fewer suffer in silence, where mental health is prioritized, and where strength is redefined not as the ability to endure pain alone, but as the courage to share it with others.